So you're thinking about buying a house in El Paso, Texas, but you're hearing about the crazy market and you don't know all the expenses or what to expect. This is the video for you. Hi, everyone. My name is Ben Williams, and I'm a local real estate broker, and I'm also a retired veteran. And if it's your first time here, please hit that subscribe button because all of the information that I'm going to talk about is going to be in the links below. So earlier this morning, I had a client who was on East Coast time and we're on Mountain time, and we were doing what we call in our world a buyer's consultation. And the reason I feel like it's so important to share this with people is because I feel as though in our industry as a whole, as real estate, we don't do enough education to our clients so they can make a decision for their families. In this particular case with this military veteran, active duty, she is in a situation where she's coming to El Paso and not clearly understanding all of the expenses that's associated with purchasing a house. Even though she purchased a house previously in her lifetime in a different type of market, things have changed. And what you're about ready to see is what we call a buyer's consultation in efforts to bring her up to speed with what's happening now, the expenses, and how she can make a decision for herself is what we're trying to do. Now, again, I teach this all the time, and I teach my agents that, we are here to advise our clients on how to purchase a house the way they want to purchase it. However, they have to understand the market at the time. And that's what we're trying to do to make sure she understands to have the knowledge behind this market here in El Paso and go forth with that. People are saying, hey, it's hard to buy a house right now. Yeah, it's kind of, but it's even harder when you don't know what you're doing. Okay, so check this video out. Tell me what you think. And here we go. Okay, so what I'm going to try and do today is when people are buying a house, I feel like, and I know you've purchased a house before, but at the time you purchased to the time you purchased today, market has shifted and changed. So the process, probably what you did before, is not even like today. And what I'm gonna try and do today is try and extract all of the different things that's probably in this process that's probably changed since the last time you bought it, and then make sure that we are all on the same sheet of music about how this process really works. So what's not on here, and what I'm going to try and do is where we're beginning at the point of where the actual contract is executed. You found this house and you're under contract, and we're going to pick up from all the expenses that goes along with this process. All right. And I'm going to talk about a couple different things here that I hope that makes sense to you. So at the very top of this presentation, you got the execution date, and it's typically between 30 to 60 days. What dictates 30 days versus 60 days is probably the type of loan and the financing behind your profile with your financing. Okay, because once you actually on the contract, it's down to working with the lenders, getting the house prepared and things of that nature. So it could take 60 days for some people, then 30 days for others. What we're seeing with VA loans, it's anywhere between 45 and 60 days. And some of the reasons because of that is because of the appraisal process, and there's not as many VA appraisers on ground in El Paso to accommodate all of the VA loans. So, that's just a supply and demand thing right there, because there's so many VA loans happening and we don't have that many VA appraisers to accommodate that, right? So there's three sections of this. This first section is called the option period. Second section is called financing, and you got the title work going on. Well, the option period by itself is typically between 5 and 12 days. What dictates 5 days versus 12 days is depending on how strong you want to make the offer. If the offer wants to be extremely strong, you want to show that you're really serious about buying it, it would be closer to the 5 days. If it's not, I'm not going to say uncertainty. There's some things that could dictate 12 days. You know, we went out to a house for resale, and let's say the utilities were not on, then, you know, the seller's got to get the utilities on and things like that. And logistically, to get those things on would take some time, would be a couple of days, whatever. And that could dictate something with 12 days, right? That's something that's negotiated inside the contract, and inside the contract, it's going to have a specific date of how many days for the option period. The option period gives you exactly what it is: the option to pull out of the contract, totally unrestricted right to terminate anytime between that 5 to 12 day period for any reason you can think of. All right. If you don't want to go forward, that's what the option period is called. To have an option period, you have to pay money to buy those days. And the first monies that you're going to spend on day one, let's say when you see red on this chart, it's where you're paying money. Okay. And that's what we have red. The white indicates this is a process. It has to happen in order to close. But the red is you paying money, right? So on day one, if let's say you was executing today, Tina would be asking between $50 to $150 in the form of in your case, what it's going to be, it's not going to be, it would be a money or a check. But in your case, since you're out of state, you're going to be doing this by wire to the title company. All right. And she'll get all those instructions for you from the title company to do this. But typically to buy 5 to 12 days, it's going to cost anywhere between $50 to $150. Again, that's something that's negotiated in the contract. But the trends that we're seeing right now in El Paso is typically between $50 to $150 to buy those days. All right.
Okay, I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
Is that per day or for that block of days?
For that block of days.
Okay.
Okay. And all that is doing is buying you those block of days to have the unrestricted right to terminate. Okay. It's probably the most important money of the whole process here, because if you don't purchase that, then you don't have the right to terminate. Okay. Within those block of days. Good question though. And if you have stuff like that, please throw it out there to me. Okay. So, and then also on day one is earnest money. In layman terms, quote unquote, deposit to put down, good faith money, a lot of different terms people say, but it's just showing how serious you are to buy. This could be a factor with a lot of different things. 3 or 4 years ago, it was very common in this market in El Paso to see that number as $500, as low as $500, believe it or not. Okay, about 3 or 4 years ago, $500 was okay, you know. Today, what we're seeing now is earnest money up to 1% of the sales price. So $200,000 home, you could ask someone to make your offer strong. It could be upwards to $2,000, 1% to make your offer strong. Now, we'll do everything we possibly can and kind of gauge it to see, you know, is it a $500 earnest money type situation, or is it a $2,000 earnest money type situation? And we're going to advise you on that. At the end of the day, I can tell you that the trend is up to about 1% of the loan, okay, to show that you're serious. So that would be happening on day one. And on day one, you would, in your case, because you're out of state, you would wire this money, the total amount. If it's, let's say that we negotiated a $50 option fee and negotiated $1,500 for earnest money, then you would be wiring $1,550 to the title company. Okay. And they'll put it in there according to the contract. The contract's going to say $50 for this, and then $1,500 for the earnest money. And they'll put it in the correct spot. So it's there in the proper spot. The option money is never returned. Once it's paid, it's never returned. Okay. You lose it. All right. The earnest money, we're going to talk about it, and we're going to write the offer so you have some outs to get that back. But the earnest money in this case right now, if you decided to terminate between that option period time, that earnest money is returned to you. Okay. And then we'll talk about certain things to get the earnest money back after the option period is over if you did terminate then, because you can. But there's certain times that there's certain things that have to happen that you get the earnest money back, and then there's certain things that if you just terminated just because you couldn't qualify, that you would forfeit that money to the seller. Okay, but we'll talk about that as we go forward. All right. Now the earnest money is also applied to your purchase price. Okay, so let's say you're financing $200,000 and you put $2,000 worth of earnest money. At the time of closing, you'll be financing $198,000. Okay, because that money is going to be applied to the purchase price. Okay. Questions about that? Okay. All right. Next, during this option period, this is your time to do an inspection. All right. An inspector, a certified inspector for Texas Real Estate Commission, will give you a sheet of people that's certified and licensed, and you can pick out whoever you want. You can go on your own and pick out somebody else to over your own long term license. But we would recommend, we'll give you like three of the inspectors that we've got the best results with. We'll give that to you, and then you can do whatever you want, do whatever due diligence you want, and then come out and say, hey, Ben, hey, I want integrity inspection to go ahead and do this. We set it up. We coordinated time and all this other stuff, right? You would have to go on an online portal, pay this company, right? They go do the inspection, and the inspector will give you a report typically the same day that the inspection is done. It's going to be the same day. They're going to render you a report the same day. It's going to be a 30-page document, and every deficiency that's out there on that home, you will have a picture of every deficiency on that report. Okay. Even new homes, newly constructed homes, I always advise all my clients to get an inspection because there's going to be faults on a new home. In a new home situation, you just turn the inspection report back to the builder. The builder goes fix all faults. Okay. That's a process of the new home process. For resale processes, there is nothing stating nowhere in the contract that a seller has to fix anything on the house. Okay. And the reason I sit there and say that is because the report's going to come back with a 30-page report. It's going to have everything wrong with the house. And in that process, what people don't understand is the inspector is inspecting to 2022 standards, ordinance, and everything like that. So if a house in a resale was built in 1998, there's probably things that's not up to code or not up to ordinance right now from 98 to 2022 because of the time. However, it doesn't mean the house is unsafe or hazard or something like that. All right. That would be any house in El Paso would come out with some type of faults or some code that they didn't meet in 2022. Some of the smaller things, I always tell clients, be careful what you ask to be fixed, because in this market today, sellers have a lot of options on resales. They have tons of people that's out here trying to get these houses. And if you're fighting over a doorknob to be fixed, they're going to move on to the next person. All right. So I always tell people to caution what they ask to be fixed. Now I'm going to be on the record. When we get the report, I'm going to look at the report. And if there's something on there unsafe or hazardous or whatever, I'm officially going to be on the record telling you, hey, this has to be fixed before you go forward. All right. At the end of the day, you can choose to do what you want to do, but I want to make sure I'm on the record saying, hey, this has to be done. Okay. If we come in there and there's a tree hanging over the house or something unsafe, I'm going to sit there and say, no, if they don't fix this one, I would not purchase it. Okay. But some of the other things, and I'm going to look at it. I look at these reports all the time. If it's something like, okay, in my opinion, this is probably not that big of a deal, I'll probably say, I don't think you should probably ask for it. All right. But again, this is money being spent for the inspection. $250 to $800. what dictates $250 to $800 is based on size. Last month I had an inspection done with a client. It was a 4,500 square foot home. It was $800. All right, it's a big house, a lot of square footage. It had a pool, had a pergola, and all this other stuff, and everything had to be inspected. It was like $800. Even the smallest houses out here in El Paso, they're not, the inspectors are not coming out for anything less than $250. So it could be a 900 square foot home. It's going to be about $250, right? So in the case of probably where you're buying, it's probably going to be right up under about $300. Okay. Questions about the inspection? All right. Again, this is during the option period. When we get the inspection back, we go over, and there's what we call a resolution of repairs. If there's things identified that you want to be repaired, we do a written request to the seller and we request them to be repaired. The resolution of that could be negotiated back and forth a couple of different times, based on what people are trying to get. If you went for repairs being done, you can ask for the repair. You can ask to be compensated in lieu of repairs. Example being, let's say it comes out and you say, okay, well, it looks like there's about $900 worth of repairs. Hey, Ben, can I ask them for $900 reduction in price or $900 towards my closing costs? You can put it anywhere. You can ask that. All right. Again, there's nothing saying that the seller has to do that. There's nothing in writing until we get it in writing that they're going to do that. Okay. And that's something that we'll do. From that point on, when we do have it in writing, the repairs don't have to be completed until closing day, way over here. Now we're going to do everything on our end to make sure we press the envelope to get those repairs done. If they're agreed upon in writing to be done on our end, we're going to say, okay, hey, when are you going to do it? Who's the licensed professionals going out there to do it? We're going to check with them. We're going to be doing this all behind the scenes. When they say the repairs are complete, whenever that's done, we send that same inspector back out there to bless off and say, okay, hey, they've met the standard. Okay. That's how that process is done. All right. Also during this period, you're going to do, you've already done a preliminary loan application, but now that you found the house and now that we know what the taxes are on the house and everything about that, they're going to finalize that loan application. And that's going to be with your lender during the financing. They're probably going to come back and redo that because they're going to put everything and calculate everything, estimate the taxes and everything like that, and try and fine tune what they told you in the beginning of what your estimated payment's going to be. Okay. That should happen within the first 72 hours of executing the contract and being on the contract. After the inspection, what we're going to do with our insurance guys, you can pick any insurance company you want. All right. And we're not trying to do anything with your insurance. We have recommendations, but at the end of the day, that's your decision. We're going to run this thing called a clue report. The clue report is going to be an investigation of any insurance claims on the asset. What we're looking for is if there was any insurance claim. First, we identify. Second, we want to know if the work's been done. And two, we want proof of the work. And usually we have to go through the insurance companies to do that. The reason that's done, Tina, is because out here, it is a systemic problem for people claiming, hail damage and roof damage on their roofs. They get this big fat check, 15 grand, and they don't use it to do the roof. All right. And that would just be a liability to you and your insurer, because if they find out that they didn't do that work, then your insurance, that'd be higher on your insurance premium. So we don't want that. So we want to do this between the option period because we want to check that stuff out to make sure, hey, this is a legitimate house and it's all been done. Now, don't get me wrong. If insurance claims been done and the work's been done, That's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. That's the right thing to do. And that doesn't hinder you for your insured. All right. It doesn't make your premium higher, nothing like that. If that's been the case, it's okay, right? But that's some of the stuff that we're doing behind the scenes that we want to make sure is right for you. So you be like, okay, well, I'm good to go on this insurance portion of it. All right. Probably also during this time, right around this period, the lender's going to be asking you for, probably more documentation be turned in, whatever that looks like. If you haven't done W-2s and all this other stuff, they have a package that's probably still going in that process with the financing that you need to have done during this time frame. All right. We recommend that you order insurance during the option period. Okay. So you have a good preview of what your insurance payment's going to be like on a monthly basis. Again, we're just trying to get you in position to make sure all of the expenditures are estimated the way you think they're going to be. All right. Now that you actually know the house. Okay. And then what we have down here, the amendment for repairs, and the reasons toward the end, we just want to make sure that if there's any agreement for repairs, it's in writing prior to the end of the option period. All right. Or if there's, compensation for the repairs, or if there's nothing that you want fixed and you're moving forward, we kind of declare and disclose, hey, look, she's moving forward. She's fine. She's okay. We're going forward. That has to be done before the option period. And we need to be on the same sheet of music for that. Okay. Any questions? All right. At this point, when we do this and we sit there and say she's going forward, we'll tell the lender, we'll tell the seller, we'll tell title, hey, buyer's going forward with this process is going to close on this house. And the actual lender should at that point in time start asking you for a couple of different things. I'm going to get to it. I'm going to get here. The red, they should ask you at that point in time to pay the appraisal. All right. The appraisal itself is anywhere between $400 to $600. Okay. Again, that's the expense you have to pay on the front end. Most times with lenders, sometimes they'll wrap it up into the closing costs, but that's something that if you're going to write anything down with the lender, I would write that down as a note. Hey, how do you go about this whole appraisal thing? Do I pay it up front, or is it going to be wrapped up into my closing costs? It changes lender to lender. Okay. All right. Just something to ask about that. The thing about this is why we wait till you're 100% sure that you're going forward with the house to order the appraisal, is because once you do order it, you're on the hook to pay for it regardless if you close or not. All right. So there's a reason why we put it after the option period, because if you don't close on the house for whatever reason, that appraisal has to be paid. Okay. All right. The two other things here, the title commitment. I'm going to talk about this title commitment. The title commitment come out, and we'll share it with you. And the title commitment with a resale house, it's a review of the property, of the people involved, both parties, buyer and seller. They're doing some legal background on the property, seller and buyer, and seeing if there's any liens or there's any taxes owed or anything like that. That's going to be something that's going to stop the title transfer. Okay, that's what it's for. Sometimes I'll give you an example. I had this lady, believe it or not, she had purchased a house with her husband during the life of the having the house. They had some marital problems, some infidelity or whatever. They end up getting divorced. He has he has a child with someone while they were married, and they end up getting a divorce, and she was granted the house. Okay. Well, when she went to go sell her house years later, she finds out during the title commitment that there's a child support lien on the house. Now, she was really shocked because she didn't have no children with this guy. So come to find out, the child he had out of wedlock, he wasn't paying child support, and they had put a lien on her house for the child support, you know? So we were in the process of selling the house, and we literally had to do a whole pause, get that fixed before she could sell her house. Now, luckily, everything happened the way it's supposed to. The lien was taken off. It took a while, but she didn't sell her house for 3 to 4 months later because she had to go through this process. So there's all different types of things that could come up on the title commitment, and we would check that out. And if there's any issues at that time with the seller or the property, you know, you have an option at that time. That's another out for your earnest money, that if you saw something that could hold up title, you can back out and get your earnest money back. Okay, because that's no fault to your own. Okay, there's a clause in there if there's something that's going to stop title exchange from the seller's perspective, that you're entitled to your earnest money back. All right, but you're still out inspection money, you're still out option period money at that time. Okay. All right.
But you're not out appraisal money. They would have to refund that, or no?
Nah, you still be out of appraisal money.
Okay.
All right. And I don't, let me say this, you know, we've been in situations when that happens, and we've requested to get the appraisal money paid by the seller, and we've gotten it back sometimes, and then sometimes we don't. Okay. And then if it comes down to anything like that, that would be some type of, you know, mediation, arbitration like that, this is where you could get attorneys involved and stuff like that. But sometimes, you know, for $400 to $600, you go hire an attorney, it may not be worth it. All right. But we will try and get it back if it came to something like that. It won't be for lack of effort on our part. Luckily, you know, a lot of times with me and my situation, you know, my wife is an attorney, so, you know, she can write demand letters on will. So we usually get them back. Okay. All right. After that process, you're updating this process. You're updating all the records and stuff like that with the buyer. It's going to get redundant. They're going to ask you for stuff all the time to probably paint the picture to the underwriters the right way, because at this point, they're trying to get the file and final closing preparation. We're working on the process of maybe getting these repairs corrected or things of that nature, and delivering the house the way you thought it was going to be delivered, whether that's resale or new construction. That's something that we'll go out and check on the house several different times to make sure it's going the right direction. There's also a thing called a survey that's got to be given to you. The survey, it could be pre-existing if the, you know, meets and bounds and lines of the land has not been changed. Example being, we would get the survey and look at it, and let's say it was when it was first purchased, it was just rock and dirt back in the backyard, but now it's a resale and they put concrete over here, they put a basketball court over there or something like that, or they put some planters. Then that changed the meets and bounds of the land, so we would request for a new survey. This is the first item here that could be a contingent, you know, when a seller, this item, the reason it's white, it could be red too for you. The reason I said there it could be red, it's a negotiable thing. Sometimes it does take that type of buyer expense to pick up. This is a normal seller's expense, but sometimes in this market, we're telling buyers, go ahead and pick up the survey. We're even telling buyers sometimes to pick up the title commitment here. You know, the title commitment is roughly about $1,200. The survey is roughly about $400. They're white here, but these two items here, if it gets down to getting your offer accepted, sometimes we're recommending to buyers, like, go ahead and just pay for it. Tell the seller you'll pay for it. All right, that's your call. But I do want to sit there and say these two items here could be the difference of getting your offer accepted or not accepted in this crazy market. Again, 3 to 4 years ago, I would have never said that. You'd never pay title commitment, never pay survey. But a lot of times right now to get offers accepted, especially with VA loans, we're recommending, hey, Mr. Buyer, pay the title commitment, pay the survey at the beginning of the offer. Just say that you will, all right? But again, that's more expenses on your part. $1,200 here and probably $400 there with a survey, okay? Home warranty. Always recommend getting a home warranty. The home warranty is, covering the, appliances, it's covering some plumbing, it's covering some of the electrical. It doesn't cover foundation, doesn't cover roof, but all the other stuff inside there, different home warranties that's out there, and we'll share a different package with you. There's several of them out there. There's American Home Shield, there's Old Republic, there's New Fidelity. There's all these different home warranties out there. We do recommend that you do get it. It's in white, because typically we try and get the seller to pay for it. But again, that's one of those items that in this market could be red. All right. It's not always granted from a seller right now to pay for the home warranty for the buyer. And the home warranty covers you for 13 months for all those items. In the event the seller doesn't pay for the home warranty, it's something that's so strong that I feel that you need. A lot of different times with a lot of different my buyer clients, I will just go ahead and pay for it myself, because it's just something, I've had situations, with the rental I have, the water heater went out, right? Well, to replace the water heater, that's, with parts and labor, you're looking at almost like $800-900. Well, with the home warranty, I paid the $75 service fee, and I got my whole water heater changed out. It covers stuff like that, refrigerators and things like that. So you never know when you need it until something goes wrong, right? So I do recommend it for the first 13 months, especially for any buyer that buys a house, all right? With a new home, that's where, their 210 warranty comes in place. You don't have to pay for it. It's automatic. Everything's there. You're covered bumper to bumper for the first, 2 years anyway. Or in the resale, that's kind of like their 210 warranty, where they're trying to cover up to 13 months of all the things that's there. But it's not going to cover foundation. It's not going to cover the roof. Okay. All right. So these bottom 3 items here, again, they're white, but in some cases, to win the bid, they could be red. Okay. I just want to make sure I tell you that. All right. At this point, you should be in final underwriting. All right. We're down here. We're probably in day 40 or 45 up here, someplace down the road. You're probably in final underwriting, and everything should be looking pretty good. All the contingencies is left for conditions to close should be coming off. Excuse me. And then 72 hours prior to closing, you'll get this closing disclosure. The closing disclosure will put all the debits and credits of seller and buyer everywhere, right? And should be the final CD that you get 72 hours, and you need to sign it 72 hours prior to closing. And that's the lender telling you exactly, hey, what your payment's going to be, what you got to come to closing with, how much money to last penny they're telling you, right? And you're reviewing it. And, that's something between you and the lender that you're going to be talking about, right? Also, in that 72-hour period, we'll be doing the final walkthrough and make sure the deliverable item, the house itself, is being delivered the way it's supposed to. All the repairs is done. Everything's right. Okay, that's going to be in the last 72 hours. And then the actual closing. All right, the closing, again, is in red, because what typically could take place, you could be coming to the table with funds, which you're probably going to come to the table with funds. All right. Now, the thing about this, the offer itself, when you look at it, we do everything we can to do, no money down and all this other stuff. But closing costs itself for the lender at 200K, that could be roughly about $6,000 at $200,000, roughly about $6,000 at 200K. So that right there, the estimate for closing costs, you just have to definitely make sure what your closing costs going to be. Now, with a new home, closing costs is probably going to be paid for by the builder. All right. With a resale house, it's market driven. And in this market right now today, sellers are not paying buyers' closing costs. And that's totally different than down payment. You have VA, no money down on down payment, but your closing costs to close a loan with the lender, $220 or so, it's going to be about $6,000. With a resale home, we'll go after it, we'll ask for it. But if you're in a multiple offer situation, or there's a lot of buyers and, little sellers with resales, this is not a typical cost that sellers are paying for with resale homes opposed to new construction. And that could be anywhere about $6,000 to $7,000. Okay. Yeah, that's what I wanted to explain.
That was a great rundown. I feel like I'm screenshotting this so I can have it for reference. Definitely a little bit more perspective on it, and familiarized me with the additional things that I forgot about. Like I forgot about the earnest money. I didn't forget about the appraisal inspection. I didn't forget about, but I don't remember. Again, when I bought the title commitment and the survey and the home warranty, I think that the builder took care of all of that stuff. I didn't have to do it.
Right. And with a builder, yeah, they're going to pay for title commitment. They're going to pay for survey. They're going to pay for the home warranty. They're going to do all this stuff.
Yeah.
But with a resale, again, it could be, that's the negotiable items. And when I say negotiable, okay, let me tell you, last Sunday, I went out with a buyer Sunday. We went to a house and it was like 179,000, 1,200 square feet. We get out there, it was like bees. There's so many people out there trying to get inside the house. This guy's a VA buyer. And I just went back and I talked to him. I said, okay, man, you want to put an offer in this house? This lady already has 10 offers on this house. She's already got it above asking price. So when we really did all the math with him, and to make his offer competitive, pay title policy, pay the survey, pay the home warranty, go 1% on the earnest money, going $5,000 above the asking price. When we calculated everything up, in his case, he was going to need about $14,000 to $15,000 and closing costs, everything, when everything was all said and done. So I sat there and talked to him, young Sergeant E5. I said, okay, hey, this is where we at in this market. We talked to him, and surprisingly, he's like, yeah, I got it, and he had the money, I said, now, do you want to do this? He went back, talked to his parents. That about an hour later came back, said, yeah, my parents is going to give me another $5,000 because he really needs a house. He got a family. He needs a house. Talked to his dad. His dad's like, yeah, we really need to try and get him. So we went basically $10,000 above the asking price. All right. And we still haven't got the answer back.
Right. Well, I mean, I feel like if you're going that much above the asking price on a resale, you might as well get a new build. And I think that's my problem. Some of the resales are asking for new build prices. For all that, I can just get a new build and not have to deal with the additional headaches.
I do recommend that, The issue now with your particular situation is the new builds that you may like is probably not at the price point that you're willing to pay. So there's the situation. And that's a decision that you're going to have to, come to some conclusion with. And I totally agree, with everything that's out here, what you're saying, you're right. But what you're going to have to do, you're going to have to come up on your price or lessen or go someplace in Socorro or lessen the amount. And, I think the only thing that we've seen so far, and Kat, if I'm correct, I think Casa de Leon, or was it Classic, I believe?
Classic Homes. Classic Homes. Not I'm not interested in anything Casas de Leon.
Okay.
Yeah, we like classic American, not Casas de Leon.
Okay.
And not, we were kind of, I know, Tina, you like the Saratoga, but we're not.
Well,
I don't know. I don't know anymore if you want to explore those more, but I know for sure Casas is a no.
Yes. All the new builds I found were in Socorro. The majority of them anyway. But I mean, I like Hagues, who's not building anything in my price point. I like Big, who I think is not building anything in my price point. I think the one that Big had, it doesn't have the features that I like. I don't want to buy something I didn't like. That resale that I submitted, there was one thing in there that I liked, but just narrowing it down, that was like one thing. I really don't like the cabinets in the kitchen, but everything else seemed like really nice. I thought it was at an amazing price too. But yeah, I'd already had the backyard done. There was no dirt back there, so everything kind of just fell in line. But I mean, I can still look. I know Kat's looking.
My intentions today, like I said, is to give you preview, education, refresh, so you can just make a better decision. All right. So that's all I was trying to do today. I know you need to think about some things, and totally get that, and we totally understand that. But this is what we need to be doing to make sure you have a good preview of everything.
I think it was very informative. Definitely should be a video that whenever I felt like as soon as you get somebody that's interested in contracting you guys out there, you go ahead and give them this video, this presentation. So then they know how to when they're out there maneuvering these houses, they know things to take in consideration, especially if they have a dead set price that they're trying to spend.